Picture the last trip you took with your friends. Not a work trip, not a family visit, a real one. The kind where nobody was in charge, where you got lost on purpose, where somebody laughed so hard they had to pull the car over. Now answer me honestly, how long ago was that? For most people watching this, the answer lands somewhere between a few years and I genuinely can't remember. And here's the strange part. It didn't stop because you fell out. Nobody had a fight. There was no dramatic goodbye. It just faded. 1 year you were planning the next adventure. The next year you were sending each other a thumbs up on a photo and calling that a friendship. I want to tell you something that took me a long time to understand, and it might sting a little. The trips you stop taking are the first sign of a life quietly closing in on itself. Not your career, not your health, not your bank account. Those things get all the attention, but the slow disappearance of adventure with the people who knew you before you became responsible, that's the one nobody warns you about. It happens so gently, you mistake it for maturity. You tell yourself you're just being sensible now, settled, grown up. But I've watched what happens to the people who let that habit die. And I've watched what happens to the ones who refuse to. The difference between them, 20 years down the road, is almost impossible to believe. Here's what the sensible version of you doesn't want to hear. As you get older, traveling with your friends stops being a luxury and becomes something closer to medicine. The exact thing you start treating as optional, we'll do it someday when things calm down, is the thing that protects you from the quiet enemy waiting on the other side of middle age. Loneliness, and the depression that so often walks in right behind it. I'm not talking about a beach vacation. I'm talking about protecting your future self, the version of you at 60, at 70, sitting in a house that got very quiet without you noticing when the quiet arrived. Over the next 40 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why this happens, why it accelerates as you age, and, most importantly, what you can do about it starting this week. Not someday, this week. Because the window you think is wide open right now, it's smaller than you think, and it's closing one unplanned trip at a time. So before you get comfortable, do one thing for me. Think of the name of one friend you haven't traveled with in too long. Hold that name in your head. You're going to need it by the end of this. Let's talk about how it actually happens, because almost nobody sees it while it's happening. Losing your friends in your later years is rarely an event. It's a drift. Think back to when you were younger. Friendship required almost no effort. You were thrown together. Same school, same street, same first job, same cheap apartment. You didn't schedule your friends. They were just there, part of the daily weather of your life. Making plans took a phone call and about 9 seconds of thought. You in? I'm in. Done. Then life did what life does. Somebody got married. Somebody moved for a job. Somebody had kids and their calendar turned into a war zone. Slowly, the friendships that used to run on autopilot started needing something they never needed before. Effort, planning, intention. And here's the trap. Nobody decided to stop. That's what makes the drift so dangerous. There was no moment where you looked at your oldest friend and said, well, that's over. Instead, there was a trip you meant to plan and didn't. A birthday you caught up on a week late. A group chat that used to buzz and now goes quiet for months at a time. Each gap felt harmless. We're just busy right now. And you were. Everybody was. But busy is not a season. Busy is the rest of your life, unless you fight it. The cruelest thing about the drift is that it disguises itself as responsibility. You feel almost virtuous letting the trips go. You've got a mortgage now. People depend on you. Taking off for 4 days with your buddies starts to feel selfish, indulgent, immature. So you cancel on yourself before anyone else can. You become the one who says, I'd love to, but you know how it is. And they do know how it is, because they're doing the exact same thing to themselves. So you get this quiet standoff. Everybody wants to reconnect. Nobody wants to be the one who pushes for it. Everybody's waiting for a better time. After this project, after the kids are older, after we save a little more, after things calm down. And that better time never arrives. It was never going to arrive. Life doesn't calm down. It just changes shape. Here's something worth sitting with. The friendships you built when you were young are almost impossible to build again later. Those people knew you before you had a title, before you had a mask, before you learned to hand the polished version of yourself to the world. They remember who you were when you were still figuring it out. You can make new friends at any age, and you should, but you cannot manufacture 30 years of shared history. That is irreplaceable, and most people let it quietly decay because they assumed it would always be there. It won't always be there. That's the part we don't say out loud. Notice something about the friendships you've kept the longest. Almost every one of them has a trip attached to it. A road trip, a disastrous camping weekend, a wedding 2 states away. That time everything went wrong and it became the story you still tell. Adventure is the glue. It isn't the phone calls that hold a friendship together over decades. It's the shared experiences that give you something to call about in the first place. When you stop taking the trips, you stop making new stories. And when you stop making new stories, the friendship starts living entirely in the past tense. Remember when? A beautiful phrase, but if it's the only phrase left, the friendship has already begun to die. It just hasn't been declared yet. And here's what makes the drift speed up as you get older, not slow down. When you were 20, a canceled plan cost you almost nothing. There'd be another one next weekend and another after that. The supply felt endless, but in your 40s and 50s, the plans get rarer, so every canceled one costs more. You're not skipping one weekend out of 1,000 anymore. You're skipping one of the few you had left. The math quietly flips on you, and almost nobody stops to notice the exact moment it does. So the drift isn't dramatic. It's a series of small, reasonable, forgivable choices, each one easy to justify, that add up to something you never would have chosen on purpose. Here's the good news. A drift can be interrupted. It's not a wall, it's a current. The moment you decide to swim against it, even a little, everything starts to change. But first you have to understand what's really at stake, because it's far more than a missed vacation. Let's name the thing hiding under all of this. When friendships fade in your later years, what fills the empty space isn't peace, it's isolation. And isolation, left alone long enough, has a way of turning into something heavier. Here's what most people get wrong about loneliness. They picture an old man alone in an empty room. But loneliness rarely looks like that when it starts. In the beginning, it looks like a full life, a job, a family, a packed schedule. You can be surrounded by people all day and still be starving for the one thing that's gone missing. People who know the real you and expect nothing from you. Think about who you actually talk to in a normal week. Co-workers who need something. your kids who need something, your partner who you love, but who carries a different kind of weight than a friend does. Somewhere in there, the friend, the person you don't have to perform for, who's seen you at your worst and stuck around anyway, quietly drops off the list. And nobody notices, because on paper your life is full. That's the trap of middle age. You mistake a busy life for a connected one. Now here's why this matters more as you get older, not less. When you're young, your social world grows by accident. School hands you friends, work hands you friends. But as you age, every one of those factories shuts down one by one. The kids grow up and leave. You retire, and the office friendships you thought were solid evaporate the week you clear out your desk. Your world doesn't just stop expanding, it starts to shrink. And if you haven't built something intentional to replace all that accidental connection, you wake up one day in a life that got very small without your permission. This is the stretch of life where depression finds people who never saw it coming. Strong people, capable people, people who spent decades taking care of everyone else. It doesn't arrive as some dramatic collapse. It seeps in through the routine. Same drive, same chair, same weekend that looks exactly like the last one. The days stop having texture, and slowly the question creeps in, is this it? Is this just what's left? I'm not saying a trip with your friends cures depression. I'd never tell you something that simple. What I'm telling you is that the habit of adventure with people you love is one of the strongest walls you can build against it. It gives you something the routine can't. It gives you anticipation, something to look forward to. It gives you novelty, a break in the sameness, and it gives you belonging. Proof, written in real experience, that you are still wanted, still fun, still part of something. Those three things, anticipation, novelty, belonging, are exactly what the routine strips away as you age. And they're exactly what a trip with your friends puts back. There's a reason the happiest older people you know are almost never the richest ones. They're the ones who still have a crew, the ones with a standing trip, a yearly reunion, a group that refuses to let the calendar win. They're not happier because they got lucky. They're happier because at some point they made a decision the rest of us keep postponing. They decided the friendships were worth protecting, and they protected them on purpose. The cost of drifting doesn't show up right away. That's what makes it so easy to ignore. It shows up as a slow narrowing of your world until one day the walls are close enough to touch, and you can't quite remember when they got that close. You still have time to push them back out, but you have to understand why travel specifically is the tool that does it. And that's what I want to show you next. You might be thinking, fine, friendship matters, connection matters, but why travel? Why not just grab dinner? Why not a phone call, a video chat, a beer down the street? Those are good, do them, but they are not the same thing. And it's worth understanding why. Start with time. When you meet a friend for dinner, you've got maybe 2 hours and the clock is running the whole time. Somebody has to get home. Somebody has an early morning. You spend the first 30 minutes downloading logistics, work, kids, the news, and just as you get to the real stuff, the good stuff, the check arrives. Dinner gives you an update. It rarely gives you a reconnection. A trip breaks the clock. When you're 3 days into something together, the surface conversation runs out. You've already covered the jobs and the kids and the aches and the headlines. And then somewhere around the second night, the real talk starts. The stuff you didn't even know you needed to say. That kind of honesty doesn't happen on a schedule. It happens when there's nowhere else to be and no reason to rush off. Travel manufactures the one ingredient modern friendship is starving for: unhurried time. Then there's novelty, and this one matters more than people realize as they age. Your brain is built to notice new things. When everything is familiar, same house, same route, same routine. Time compresses, whole years blur together. You get to December and wonder where the year went. But drop yourself somewhere new, with people you love, and time stretches back out. A single weekend in an unfamiliar place can hold more vivid memory than 3 months of your ordinary life. Travel doesn't just pass the time, it gives the time back to you. And novelty does something to a friendship too. At home, you fall into old roles. You become the version of yourself everyone already expects. But out on the road, facing something new together, a wrong turn, a language you don't speak, a plan that falls apart and has to be rebuilt on the spot, you get to see each other fresh. You solve problems side by side. You depend on each other again, the way you did when you were young. That shared problem solving is the exact muscle that built the friendship in the first place. Travel puts you back in the gym. There's also the matter of memory, and this is the part that pays you back for the rest of your life. Ordinary days evaporate, but a trip becomes a landmark. It gives the friendship a fixed point in time you can both return to forever. Remember that place we found by accident? Remember when the car broke down and we had to walk? Those stories don't just describe the past. They keep the friendship alive in the present. Every time you tell one, you're renewing the bond. And here's the quiet magic of it. You're also building the very stories that will comfort you decades from now when the trips get harder to take. You are right now banking the memories your older self will live on. And notice who you become on the trip itself. Away from the desk and the inbox and the thousand small obligations, you get your curiosity back. You try the food you can't pronounce. You say yes to the detour. You stay up too late talking about nothing that matters and everything that does. That version of you, open, easy, up for anything, is still in there. He never left. He just got buried under 20 years of being the responsible one. Travel is one of the few things that digs him back out. Think of it this way. A trip with your friends is one of the only purchases that keeps paying you back. You spend the money once, and then you get the anticipation before, the experience during, and the memories for the rest of your life. Compare that to almost anything else you spend on. Most of it gives you a spike of pleasure and then nothing. Shared adventure compounds. It's the rare thing that's actually worth more the older you get, because by then, the memories have had decades to appreciate. That's why travel heals in a way a phone call can't. It's not about the destination. The destination is just the excuse. What you're really buying is unhurried time, shared novelty, and a permanent memory. 3 things that get harder and more precious with every year that passes. And when you put them together, something happens to a group of old friends that's almost impossible to describe from the outside. Let me try anyway. Have you ever noticed how within about an hour of a trip starting, everyone gets younger? It's real, and it's one of the most beautiful things I know. You could have 4 people in their 50s, each carrying the full weight of an adult life. The pressures, the titles, the worries they haven't said out loud. And then the trip begins. Somebody makes the old joke. Somebody brings up the story everyone's heard 100 times, and the years just fall off. Suddenly, they're not a manager and a father and a man with a bad knee. They're just the kid they were at 20, laughing at something that isn't even that funny. That's what a shared adventure does. It gives you permission to put down the role you carry every single day. And most people don't realize how heavy that role is until they finally set it down. Because that's the exhausting part of getting older that nobody warns you about. You are always being someone for somebody. The dependable one at work, the steady one at home, the parent who has it together. You perform competence and calm all day long, and it costs you more than you admit. Your old friends are the only people on earth who let you stop performing. They don't need you to be impressive. They already know exactly who you are, flaws and all, and they showed up anyway. Being around them isn't just fun, it's a kind of rest you can't get anywhere else. Then there's the laughter, and I mean the real kind, not the polite laugh you give a coworker's joke, the kind that doubles you over, that you can't stop, that hurts. When was the last time you laughed like that? For a lot of people, the honest answer is the last time they were with these exact friends. That laughter isn't a small thing. It's one of the clearest signals your body has that you are safe, you belong, and you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And it gets rarer with every year you let the adventure slide. A shared adventure also gives you something the modern world has quietly stolen from grown-ups: a sense of play. Kids play constantly. Then somewhere along the way, we're told that play is childish, that serious adults don't waste time on it. So we stop. And we pay a price for stopping that we never connect back to the cause. Play is how human beings blow off pressure. It's how we stay flexible, stay curious, stay alive on the inside. Travel with your friends is one of the last socially acceptable ways for an adult to genuinely play. To be silly, to be spontaneous, to do something for no reason other than that it sounds fun. And underneath all of it, the laughter, the play, the rest, there's something deeper going on. Purpose. When you plan a trip together, you're building something as a group. You're pointed at a shared goal, working toward a shared experience, counting on each other to make it happen. That feeling of being part of a we instead of just an I is one of the most protective forces there is for the human mind. It's the antidote to the isolation we talked about. It's the wall against the quiet. And you don't get it from scrolling a feed or watching a screen. You get it from doing something real, together. Here's what I want you to really hear. When you take a trip with your old friends, you are not being irresponsible. You are not running away from your real life. You are doing maintenance on the parts of yourself that your real life grinds down every single day. You're refilling something. You come home lighter, kinder, more patient with the people you love. Everyone around you benefits from the version of you that comes back from that trip. So the adventure isn't the indulgence, the adventure is the repair. Quick pause. And this one actually matters, so stay with me. If anything I've said so far has landed, if you've been sitting there with one particular name in your head this whole time, do two small things right now. First, subscribe to the channel. Everything I make here is about this: protecting the connections and the moments that make a life worth remembering, especially in the years when the world tells you to slow down and settle. If that's the kind of reminder you want showing up in your week, hit subscribe so it can find you. Second, and this one's bigger, send this video to that friend, the one whose name you've been holding since the start. Don't overthink the message. You don't need a speech. Just send it and write, "We're overdue." That's it. Because here's the truth. A video like this changes nothing if it just makes you nod along and move on. It only changes something if it reaches the person on the other end of that drifting friendship. You sending this might be the exact nudge that turns someday into an actual date on a calendar. Be the one who pushes for it. Somebody has to. Let it be you. Okay, now let's talk about the excuses. Because once you see the adventure as repair, the reasons you've been telling yourself start to look very different. And I know those excuses. I've used every one of them myself. Let's be honest about the reasons you tell yourself, because until we drag them into the light, they'll keep winning. And they win quietly, which is the whole problem. The first one is money. I can't really afford it right now. And look, sometimes that's genuinely true and I'll never dismiss it. But be honest about how often I can't afford it really means I haven't made it a priority. We find money for the things we've decided matter. We find it for the car, the phone, the 1,000 small conveniences we don't even remember buying. A trip with your friends doesn't have to be expensive. A cabin a few hours away, split 4 ways, costs less than a month of the subscriptions you're barely using. The expensive thing isn't the trip. The expensive thing is arriving at the end of your life with a full bank account and an empty calendar of memories. That's the bill nobody warns you about. The second excuse is time. I'm too busy. There's no way I can get away. Here's the hard truth about time. You will never find it. It does not exist to be found. It only exists to be taken. The people who travel are not the people with more free time. They're the people who decided to block off the dates and build the rest of their life around them, instead of waiting for a gap that was never going to open on its own. If you wait until your schedule clears, you will wait forever. The calendar is not going to give you permission. You have to take it. The third excuse gets louder as you age, and it's a sneaky one. Health. Maybe when my knee's better, maybe when I've lost a little weight, maybe when I'm in better shape for it. I understand the instinct, but think about the direction that's pointing. For most of us, this is the healthiest and most mobile we are ever going to be again. Right now, today. The trip you can take easily this year might take real effort in 5 years and might be impossible in 10. Waiting for the perfect physical moment is a bet against your own body, and it's a bet you are guaranteed to lose. The best time to go was years ago. The second best time is while you still can. There's a quieter excuse too, and it might be the saddest one. I'm not even sure they'd want to come. You've drifted so long that you've started to assume the friendship is more one-sided than it really is. Let me save you the worry. They are thinking the exact same thing about you right now. That's the whole tragedy of the standoff. 2 people, both wanting the same reunion, both convinced the other one stopped caring. 99 times out of 100, the message you are afraid to send is the message they've quietly been hoping to get. But the biggest excuse, the one underneath all the others, is the quietest. It's the word later. We'll do it later. There's no rush. These are old friends. They'll always be around. That's the one that steals the most from people, because it never feels like a decision. It feels like patience. It feels responsible. But later is not a plan. Later is how 30 years disappear. Every trip you never took, every friendship that faded into a name you occasionally think about, almost all of it died not from a no, but from an endless string of laters. Here's what I want you to sit with. Later assumes something you have no right to assume. It assumes the people will still be there. It assumes you'll still be able. It assumes the window stays open just because it's open now. and none of that is promised. Not to you, not to me, not to anyone. Every one of these excuses is really the same excuse wearing a different coat. It's fear of making it real. Because the moment you pick a date, you're committed, and commitment feels risky. But I promise you, the real risk was never in going. The real risk was always in the waiting. So let's talk about how you actually beat it. And it's simpler than you think. Here's where most people nod along, feel something real, and then do absolutely nothing. Let's make sure that's not you. Because the gap between wanting this and having it comes down to a handful of small, unglamorous moves. None of them are hard. They just require you to stop waiting. Step 1. Pick a date before you pick anything else. This is the whole secret, and almost everyone does it backwards. They try to agree on the where, the how much, the what, and the plan collapses under its own weight before it ever starts. Flip it. Get a date on the calendar first, even a rough one. The second weekend of October. That's it. A date turns a someday into a something. Everything else, the place, the budget, the details, can be figured out around a date, but nothing gets figured out around a maybe. Step 2, be the one who sends the first message. This is the part everyone's waiting on someone else to do, which is exactly why it never happens. So be the one. Don't send a vague, "we should really hang out sometime." That message dies the second it's read. Send a real one. "I'm serious about this." The weekend of the 12th, who's in? Specific beats polite every time. You are not being pushy. You are giving everyone else permission to want the thing they've been quietly wanting to. Somebody has to break the standoff. Be that person. Step 3, start smaller than you think you should. People kill the whole idea by dreaming too big. They imagine 2 weeks abroad, price it out, feel overwhelmed, and shelve the entire thing. Don't. Your first trip back doesn't need a passport. It needs one night away, a cabin, a cheap rental, a couple hours down the road, a campsite. The goal of the first trip isn't the destination. It's rebuilding the habit. It's proving to the group that this is possible again. Once you've got one small win, the next one gets 10 times easier. Momentum is the whole game. Step 4, kill the logistics before they kill the trip. Every group trip has a moment where it almost dies, usually when the planning gets complicated and everyone goes quiet. Beat it by keeping things stupidly simple. One person books the place. Everyone splits it evenly. No itemizing, no math over who had the extra drink. That pettiness has ended more friendships than any real conflict. Keep the plan loose. You don't need an hour-by-hour schedule. You need a place to be and time to be there. The best trips have more empty space than plans. Step 5, protect the date like it's a doctor's appointment, because in a way it is. Once it's set, treat it as fixed. Things will come up. They always do. And the temptation to postpone will be enormous. Resist it. The single most important habit of people who keep their friendships alive for decades is this: they don't cancel. They've made the standing trip non-negotiable. Work bends around it. Life bends around it. Because they've learned that let's reschedule is just later in a nicer outfit. And later is where these things go to die. And here's the step that turns one trip into a lifetime of them. Before this trip ends, plan the next one. This is the move that separates the groups who drift from the groups who last. On the last night, while everyone's still glowing from it, still feeling how good it is, Put the next date on the calendar. Right then, it takes 5 minutes, and it means you never go back to zero. You never have to rebuild the whole thing from cold ground again. You just have the next one, already waiting. That's how a single weekend becomes a tradition, and a tradition becomes the thing that carries a friendship all the way to the end. One more thing, because it trips up almost every group. People show up with different budgets, and that difference has killed more trips than distance ever has. Don't let it. Plan to the level everyone can actually hit, not the level the most comfortable person wants. A cheaper trip the whole group can afford beats a dream trip half of them have to sit out. Nobody remembers how nice the room was 5 years later. They remember who was in it. None of this requires you to be rich or free or perfectly organized. It requires exactly one thing: someone willing to go first. And you already know who that someone is. The only question left is when. And that question matters more than you think. Because the window you're picturing is not as wide as it feels. I want to be gentle here, but I also want to be honest with you, because this is the part that changes people. There is a number you've probably never calculated, and I'd like you to calculate it now. Think about a friend you love, someone you don't live near. How many times a year do you actually see them in person? For a lot of people, the honest answer is once, maybe twice. Now think about how many more years you realistically have where you're both healthy, both mobile, both still here. Multiply those two numbers together. That's it. That's roughly how many more times you will ever see that person for the rest of your life. For a lot of people, that number is shockingly small. Not hundreds. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 5. You may have already used up most of your time with some of the people who matter most to you, and spent the remaining visits on quick coffees and rushed hellos, thinking there was always more where that came from. I'm not telling you this to make you sad. I'm telling you because the number's only that small if you let it stay that small. The whole point of a trip is that it takes those rare, thin, hurried little visits and turns them into something dense and real. One good trip can hold more true connection than 5 years of catching up over the phone. You can't add decades to your life, but you can add depth to the time you've got left. That's a choice, and it's still on the table. And do the harder version of that math, the one for yourself. You're not just counting their remaining years, you're counting yours. There is a last trip coming for every one of us. A final time you'll be well enough, mobile enough, free enough to throw a bag in the car and just go. You won't know it's the last one while you're on it. That's exactly why you don't get to waste the ones sitting right in front of you now. Treat every single one like it counts, because you genuinely cannot know which one won't come again. Here's what nobody tells you about the window. It doesn't close all at once. It closes gradually and then suddenly. For years it feels wide open, so you keep saying later. And then one friend has a health scare. One moves across the world to be near grandkids. One, and I'm sorry to say it, one day simply isn't there anymore. And every single person who's been through that will tell you the same thing. It's never the trips they took that they regret. It's the ones they kept meaning to take, the ones that were always going to happen later. Nobody reaches the end wishing they'd spent more weekends at home doing nothing in particular. Nobody. They wish they'd said yes more. They wish they'd made the call. They wish they'd been the one to push for the trip while everyone was still around to take it. You are right now in the part of the story where you can still choose. That's not a small thing. That's everything. The window is open, not as wide as it was, but wider than it will ever be again after today. Every year you wait, it narrows a little more. And the cruel part is, you won't notice it narrowing until the day it's shut and you're standing on the wrong side of it, holding a name and a whole list of trips that never happened. Don't let that be the end of your story. You've still got time to write a different one, but only if you start writing it now. So let's go back to the beginning, to that name, the one I asked you to hold on to at the very start, the friend you haven't traveled with in too long. That name has been sitting in the back of your mind this whole time for a reason. It's not an accident that they came to you. Some part of you already knew, before I said a single word, that something there is worth protecting, and that something is quietly slipping. Here's what I want you to understand as we finish. Everything I've said today, the drift, the loneliness, the shrinking window, all of it, none of it is a prediction. It's not your fate. It's just what happens by default to everyone who does nothing. And the beautiful thing about a default is that you can override it any day you choose, including today. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to plan the trip of a lifetime. You just have to refuse to let the drift win one more day. You just have to be the one who goes first. Because in every group of friends that stays close for 50 years, there is always one person who kept picking up the phone. One person who refused to let later become never. One person who made the plans nobody else would make. It was never the person with the most money or the most free time. It was just the one who cared enough to go first. Let it be you. Your friends are waiting for someone to be you. They're sitting in their own busy lives, holding their own name, wishing someone would just make it real. Be the answer to that wish. So here's what I'm asking, and I mean it. Don't let this video end and just fade into your day like it never happened. The moment you're done watching, do the two things that actually matter. Text that friend right now. Not a speech, just, I watched something today and thought of us. We're overdue, let's pick a weekend. And then send them this so they understand exactly why. And if this hits something real in you, subscribe and stay with me. This channel exists for people who refuse to let the best parts of life quietly slip away, who still believe the years ahead can be full and loud and worth remembering. If that's you, you belong here. And share this with the friends you'd want beside you on that trip. That's how the right people find it. That's how someone else's drift gets interrupted too. The road is still open. The people are still here. The window is still cracked wide enough to climb through. Go take the trip. Take all of them, and I'll see you on the next one.